Every man's heart is full of dreams, and for us car lovers, especially for us Italians, it is impossible to deny that owning a prancing horse car is one of them. Especially if we talk about a two-seater berlinetta with a front engine like the 599 GTB Fiorano. The 599 Gran Turismo Berlinetta got its name from its technical specs. In this case, it comes from the dozens cubic centimeters of its 5,999 engine. Moreover, it is an homage to the Fiorano circuit, the private racetrack commissioned by Enzo Ferrari and officially opened in 1972. Created in 2006 and produced until 2011, the 599 was the most representative GT of its time, since it is the descendant of a long line of Ferrari's V12 placed, as Jake wanted, in front of the cockpit, like oxen carrying a cart. But there are many more reasons to consider the 599 an epic Ferrari, some of them tangible, some are symbolic. Truth is, this was not the first car to bring back the frontal V12 in a two-seater GT, because it all happened thanks to its predecessor, the 550, 575 and Maranello. Yet the concept of Gran Turismo grew thanks to the 599, which evolved into more than just a car that could deal with the track, but into a real performer during track days. This is also due to its close link to the Ferrari Enzo. Its engine comes directly from the F140B of the Enzo, just like the brake calipers. This factor makes us understand why this car was considered a lab vehicle, used as a basis for several experiments which allowed the whole Ferrari range to develop its new identity. From a symbolic and conceptual point of view, part of the charm of the 599 comes from what this car represents, not just from what it is. This car is to be considered a milestone, because all the innovative technical parts that have been inserted were not made for a central engine sport car, but for the series flagship Berlinetta, the Gran Turismo that represented the firm. The 599 is an epic car, for it integrates the personality of a big and comfortable GT to the energetic character of what is almost a racing car. With this car, the Montezemolo era finally gets to its consecration. Innovative technology and excellent craftsmanship meet traditional styles and shapes. Even when it comes to its design, this car has a lot to give. In the 2000s, Italy went through an authentic belle époque for what concerns the production of great sport coupe, the Alfa Romeo 8C Competizione and the Maserati Gran Turismo, which came out shortly after the 599, made the world fall in love with them, just as much as this wonderful two-seater Berlinetta did, the real crown jewel of the Italian production of GT cars. With the 599, Pininfarina celebrates the style of the glorious past of Ferrari cars. Its proportions, its powerful sides, which visibly highlights the tail, are a reminder of the 250 SWB, while its distinctive front with two headlights, which perhaps are too gentle compared to the wild nature of the car. This was an attempt to recreate in a new original way the two-fender front with faired headlight typical of Maranello's GT cars in the 50s and 60s, which were characterized by a central chrome-plated grille. Starting from the front, the central bulge of the long hood gets wider right before the windshield, so that the cockpit is perfectly nestled between the first and the second volumes, that blend together before reaching a beautiful and powerful tail. A simple but wonderfully integrated round mono headlight culminates the rear of the car. All the several details of this car are noteworthy, starting from the drop-shaped side mirrors held by a two-arm support, to the beautiful edge at the top of the front and rear fenders. Another distinctive element of this car is the aerodynamic spoiler, which connects the roof to the rear end so smoothly that it looks like a pillar that gently encloses the cockpit and the rear window. The elegant and balanced, timeless design of this car becomes rugged at the bottom of the tail, with its 4 round inox exhaust pipe and 2 fog lights that, in that position, resemble the jets of a Grumman F14 Tomcat. Even on the inside, the aura of this flagship car is perfectly perceivable. The size of the interior is surprisingly massive for those who believe that the cockpit of a Ferrari should be a narrow hole where the driver suffers from the heat and cannot feel comfortable. The interiors are beautifully refined. Each surface is covered in soft Cartier red leather. This model has a particularly pleasant color combination and it's equipped with Recaro seats, which have a full electric carbon shell and cannelloni seats. The wide set of possible adjustments for the lateral supports and the seat backs make them even more comfortable. The 4-point seatbelt harnesses are much more user-friendly than they look, and the leather-covered padded roll bar completes the racing but elegant look of this 599. The size and the materials of the dashboard draw the attention of the driver. The bicolor leather goes well with the polished carbon fiber and the aluminum molding with Ferrari written right over the cover with the crossed flags of Ferrari and Pininfarina, which hides the stereo controls. The stereo system of the car is a hi-fi Bose system with 11 audio sources, a 6-channel amplifier and a microphone with an autopilot function for an automatic and balanced equalization. The use of Fiat components and mediocre craftsmanship are a mere memory of what older Ferrari cars used to be. The only things that are not totally up to the standards of this car are the soft touch, which gets deteriorated with time, and the air conditioning controls, that feel quite cheap. The wide center console doesn't have a traditional manual gearbox, but an aluminum plate with an automated manual transmission controls, the hazard and a glove box placed in front of the ashtray, a handbrake and a very useful passenger grab handle. Sitting in a Ferrari is a great moment in each driver's life, and before doing it I felt a little bit overwhelmed too. It's like being part of a greater history that cannot be compared to anything alike. The kind of history that makes us dream with moving art pieces that charm us even beyond a logical explanation. These four-wheel identities that have beautiful shapes, sounds, characters and personalities. Sitting in a 599 only amplifies these sensations, both for the ideal it represents and the sensory impact it has on the driver, even when it's not moving. Just holding the steering wheel is a great tactile experience. It is neither rough nor too padded. Just like the steering wheel of old F1 cars, this one has a carbon core and we can find the manettino dial and the power button. The steering crown is made of leather with a carbon top part on which we see the LED lights that progressively turn on to indicate when to shift gears. The aluminum pedals to select the gear are integral with the steering column, and they anticipate the two classical levers and the controls behind the steering wheel spokes to control the menu on the onboard computer. The control panel contains an analog rev counter and speedometer, and a digital screen with several functions to control the car. One in particular keeps track of your lap times during track days. Even when we look the rear mirrors, the view is grand. From the central mirror we can see the duck-like tail and the leather-bound parcel shelf that wraps the rear speaker and resembles the after deck of a luxury boat. From the side mirrors, however, we get to see those fake pillars that hide the window's frame and make the 599 look even better and give it a more elegant look, just like a nice dress would do on a beautiful woman. The winged spoiler truly enhances the natural beauty of this car, just like a dress tray. When we stop watching it and try to perceive its soul, the enthusiasm for what we have just admired leaves space to an almost intimidating feel. The V12 turns on with a loud roar, which gets piercing as soon as the rev goes up. It is Enzo's motor talking, even though its power has been decreased and set to be easier to tame and control on the road. Despite being still available with a manual gearbox, almost every 599 is equipped with the F1 Superfast, an AMT capable of shifting gear in just 100 milliseconds, 80 for the HGT, as opposed to the 250 required by its previous version in the 575 Maranello. To start, we only need to set the automatic mode, or preferably pull the right pedal to shift to the first gear and accelerate, and we will start moving. With the manettino dial set to low adherence, we can feel that the gears shift more slowly in favor of a safer drive, rather than a more performative one. Despite the more conservative setting, the manual gear is very perceptible, while the automatic mode is very comfortable. Setting aside the ICE mode, obviously useful only in certain situations, on the manettino dial, if we wanted to get the best compromise between safety and comfort, our best option is surely the Sport mode. With the Race mode and the CST off mode, we get the best of the dynamics all of the 599, with the VDC and the F1 track set to allow the driver the best and the most satisfying theme and variation. Moreover, these modes set the magnet race suspensions to be more rigid, thus regulating the rigidity of the vehicle's suspensions, thanks to the application of a magnetic field in the internal fluids of the shock absorbers. And for those who wish to take the best of the delicate and hyper-performative transmission, there is the launch control mode, for a flying start which often leads directly to the closest Ferrari service center. The car's suspensions, even in low adherence mode, easily support the aluminum frame of the 599. Despite being comfortable, the tires with their 20 inches shoulders and, in this case, challenge wheel rims with 8 inches front channels and 11 inches rear channels don't fully filter the roughness of the road, allowing the driver to feel what's under the tires. An exciting extra feature of this mode, which keeps a good pitch, is the typical weight transfer of the Maranello's berlinette on the rear wheels before springing forward thanks to its extremely powerful engine. The car braking is ensured by a braking system with the same calipers and pads of the Enzo, with carbon ceramic discs and a 6-piston caliper on the front brakes and 4-piston caliper on the rear brakes. The wear conditions of brake pads and the tires pressure are controlled by a sensor which sends the information to the display in the settings option. When it comes to the driving feeling, the deceleration is surely perceivable. The era of the high-performance GTs and their underdeveloped brake systems that made you feel the whole weight of the car when slowing down has surely come to an end. Everything about this car is made to avoid perceiving its weight, starting from its powerful engine to its dynamic attitude to the brakes. If used gently, this is the perfect road racer for the Grand Tour, but when properly pushed, this is a dynamic and exceptionally performative car, which makes the driver perceive it as a lightweight car, even though it is not. We immediately feel we are in a big car, but the direct and precise steering wheel together with the optimal weight distribution allow the driver to forget about the car's size and fully enjoy the driving experience. This is also enhanced by several little details, like the 5 LED lights on the steering wheel chrome that, when we reach 6000 rpm, start turning on one after the other every 500 rpm, until we reach the top 8250 rpm. The V12 engine roars marvelously. The exhaust pipes valves can be opened with a remote control and allow us to keep a good relationship with our neighbors. And this is definitely another unique aspect about this car. It can be extremely gentle despite its wild nature. The gears are relatively short. In 6th gear at 120 km/h we nearly reach 3000 rpm. Nevertheless, we can go over 330 km/h thanks to the great rotational speed that the engine can reach. The impressive, powerful engine with 620 horsepower at 7,600 rpm makes the 599 perform in 4th or 5th gear the same way a sport car would do in 2nd gear. The 608 Nm torque at 5,600 rpm contributes to the perfect balance between the sound, thrust and speed. There's total coherence between the car perceived performance and its actual performance, while accelerating the 599 can reach 100 km/h in 3.7 seconds and 200 km/h in 11 seconds. As we can understand, with the 599 the Maranello house managed to create a car with two souls. One soul lives up to the expectation we had for a GT car, fast but gentle and with a soundproofing system so good that from the inside it is hard to hear the crackling sound coming from the exhaustion pipe when we decelerate. The other soul, our Mr. Hyde, is fast and captivating, with a raging torque output just like that of a racing car ready to set off, and a high-quality soundtrack provided by the V12 engine. It is then inevitable to ask ourselves how is it possible that such a heavy car that weighs 1,700 kilograms can be so dynamic. There are countless reasons for this, and all of them can be traced back to the great job made in every part of the car, but I believe that most of its qualities are due to the engine, not only because of the engine's output and torque performances, but also thanks to its relocation. As we can see when we open the long engine hood, this magnificent 65 degrees V-shaped 12-cylinder engine is placed right behind the front shaft. For this reason, its position is considered front center. The weight distribution is thus balanced also thanks to the obvious need to move the cockpit back between the two shafts, ensuring the 599's dynamic qualities usually found in cars with much smaller and lighter engines. The engine compartment itself is a work of art, from the chassis number on the badge of the radiator's covers to the engine number displayed between the two banks, to the lateral airboxes that go to the spiral air ducts placed at the sides of the engine, whose obviously red cylinder heads are only half visible due to the engine length and backward placement. Little matters that when going at a quick but not extreme pace it is hard to make 5 km with a liter. After all, the size of the 105 liters tank is designed to guarantee at least 500 km of autonomy, all while driving a purebred GT, with a style that used to belong only to older GT cars, but that the 599 can combine with the comfort and the advanced technology typical of the 2000s. The same technology that allowed the driver to have control over the pressure and the temperature of the tires, and that also allowed us to set the calibration of the gear shift and suspensions. In the past years we have had the best of both comfort and driving controls. We had total control over it. Technology had become an helpful aspect and not an obstacle to consider more responsible and reactive than us when it came to doing the right thing at the right moment, if ever such an absolute can be true. But surely the 599 gave us the power to decide how to use it. Nowadays, one of the most praised aspects of a car is its connectivity. But connected to what? To the internet. With all this data, we can surely do without. A web of redundantly present information that constantly risks giving us a cognitive overload. The connection that we car lovers look for is another one. That between our bodies and the car itself. That between our minds and soul, and the values, the history and the philosophy of a car manufacturer. Is this the definitive Berlinetta? The one that Drake wanted to create from the very beginning? I don't know. and we will never have an answer to such an indiscreet question. For him, the best Ferrari was yet to come. But if selling Ferrari cars weren't a necessity, don't you think that he would have gladly started there in the 2000s, when the Maranello house was unrivaled in F1 races, and they produced elegant and performative masterpieces such as this 599? What is certain is that the 599 GTB Fiorano represents the best of the automotive world of that time, a time when technology had already achieved great results, but was mostly used to fuel our passion and neither to limit our free will, nor to operate as an extremely powerful marketing tool. The 599 is a pinnacle in the history of Ferrari and motoring, thanks to its ability to combine the elements that we deeply love in cars: history, design, performance, sound, comfort, their wild nature and the immense satisfaction of proving ourselves by handling them. It's all here, under this magical prancing horse that made us dream generation after generation, and always will.